Hello and welcome to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do, and we're friends now. My messy shower bun and I are coming to you from my home in Brooklyn that I share with my husband Joshua and the two held kittens, actual cats, not humans. And this is my corner of the internet where we talk about all the things that I'm knitting and spinning and sewing and potentially weaving. It is just fiber joy and wool chaos all the time. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on the thumbnail. There are a million voices vying for your attention on the internet, and you saw whatever this is and decided to give it a go, and that makes you a rad human. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Thank you so much for showing up for me this Vlogmas. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself. Before we continue, I would be remiss if I did not say thank you to everyone who engaged with the wibbly wobbly Tommy situation. Wibbly wobbly Tommy wimey, who knows? It is Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. I don't even have my watch on. It is Tuesday, December 19th. It is currently 6:19 in the morning. The video that would have day 16, because this will be day 18. So day 16, which is the process, product, and intentional making video. I should just do titles instead of going the video that went up yesterday. Who knows? Who knows? I don't, not anymore. I am deep in the weird soup that is time. It is not real. It is now a social construct, and I just have no idea what's going on anymore. And honestly, I'm not mad about it. The process, product, and intentional making video. Thank you so much to everyone who engaged with that video. There is such thoughtful and nuanced conversation happening in the comments over there, and your girl is pleased. I filmed that, so just a little bit, a peek. My DM would say a peek behind the screen, which is like about the DM process. So like a peek behind the screen. I almost deleted that entire video because I filmed it and I was just like, this isn't gonna resonate with anyone but me. Like, my brain is weird and this isn't gonna resonate with anyone but me. And I filmed it and I edited it, and I hate the way edited sounds, by the way. I watched it 3 times before I finally put it up. So I was just like, maybe it'll resonate with like 2 people, and everyone else is just gonna think Tashi's overthinking things as usual, which, you know, it's my talent. It's the thing that I'm good at. I'm a chronic overthinker, and I'm very, very good at it. A+ awards over here. And I was like, this isn't gonna land with anybody. This isn't gonna resonate with anybody, and people are gonna think I'm overreacting as usual. And I put it up because, you know, we're being brave in this season of Starlight. We're being brave, and also, if I didn't put it up, I wouldn't have had anything to share with that spin. So like, you know, I put it up, and the comments over there are so thoughtful and so nuanced, and so many people are like, even if they don't necessarily agree with me, which is wild how many people agree with me, people are just interrogating their own making and thinking about things, and like spending time with their feelings and their thoughts. And it's just like, yeah, that's rad. And I'm proud of you. If no one tells you this today, I'm proud of you. Also, you guys have got to let me know if things look better and if things sound better. I am trying something different with my lighting. I was up last night, so I was watching YouTube videos on like how to light a small space, because I am filming literally in a corner of my living room. I do not have a permanent filming space. My yarn wall lives in the corner of my living room, so I thought it would be a good backdrop, but I don't have like a permanent filming space, and I have to set up and take down my setup every single time. I've gotten it down to a 3-minute situation, but I still gotta set up my lights, set up my tripod, do everything else. So I'm trying something different. I'm trying a different microphone because I wanna be able to film further away from my camera. And for a really long time, I was using a shotgun microphone, which was attached to my camera. And now I'm wearing a microphone on me. So we will have to assess. And if it doesn't work, I'm really sad and I'm really sorry. And I will continue to reassess until we get better, because we're getting better every day. I am deeply committed to this project. This channel is now a year old, and in the beginning I didn't want to invest too much of myself in it because I didn't know what would happen. But again, we're a year old and you guys are showing up for me, so I'm going to continue to show up for you. So you'll have to let me know. You don't have to, but if you do have thoughts, if things sound better or look better, or if you would prefer I go back to the other setup or whatever, we're going to figure this out together. Christopher is my IT and my audio guy. He doesn't know this yet, but he's my IT and my audio guy. So as soon as this video goes up tomorrow, I'm gonna be like, hey, Christopher, can you watch this and tell me what this looks like and what this sounds like? Day 9. So, another story. I realized that in all the hubbub of the night drinking on Sunday, and then yesterday just being a general lump. I didn't finish my Dorset spin. I still have half of the top left. So I was like, fine, I'm just gonna start the spin on a different bobbin. And I spent 10 minutes looking for a bobbin, only to realize that even though I have nine Lendrum bobbins, all of them are full because I start a million projects and I finish none of them. And actually I have 4 bobbins full of CVM fleece that I just need to ply. 4 bobbins. But I was like, I'm not gonna ply until I finish spinning. The devil is a liar. We gotta get some of that yarn off those bobbins, and I need those bobbins back. So I found a bobbin that I only have 2 ounces on, so I could spin on top of it because there's still space. So I'm going to have to finish the Dorset spin. There's 3 days now. Where's the bobbin? Oh. Wow. There's 3 days on this bobbin now once I finish the Dorset spin. So I'm gonna finish the Dorset spin, wind all that off, and then finish this spin eventually and wind that all off, and I'll have 4 days on to weaving bobbins. I think I only have 5 weaving bobbins left though. So I'm gonna have to leave. If I get 9 and 10 on weaving, I might get up to day 10 on weaving bobbins, and I might have to leave at 11 and 12 on this. And I really wanted to get them all on weaving bobbins to get the family shot, but I don't know that I have enough weaving bobbins, and it seems silly to buy more weaving bobbins for a vanity project. So I'm gonna have to like ply some and then get the rest onto weaving. This is like planning stages for plying, and that doesn't matter because we have presents to open. So the present dance. Enough. Let's go. All right, so day 9 is a new fiber, and we will find out what it is after we spin it. Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm wondering if this is a dark wool. I'm pretty sure this is a dark wool, just looking at this. I think I might know what this is. Interesting. I think I might know what this is, but I'm going to keep my judgment to myself until I speak to Rose. This is beautiful. It looks like it's mostly undyed, and there's a few sections where there's color. I should just show it to you. Here it is. Here's day 9. Isn't that stunning? Isn't that stunning? I think I know what this is, but I'm going to retain judgment, and when I come back for day 10, I'll tell you if I was correct or not, but I think I know what this is. So today, what are we talking about? We're talking about my favorite fibers. I don't know if I'll have enough to say about it, so if this is just a short video, it's a short video, and that's okay. You know, it takes all types. I don't know if I have a lot to say, but I figured so many people asked about my favorite fibers to spin with, my favorite blends, and my least favorite fibers. That's a hard question because my favorite fiber is the fiber that's in my hand. That's a lie, that's not true. I have some preferences. So I figured we'll talk about my favorite fibers for a little bit while I sit and spin. Let's get to work. Let's pivot. Let's move the camera. Let's do the stuff. Let's do the stuff. Okay, so some of my favorite fibers to spin. I feel like I've answered this question in part before because we've talked about my favorite fleeces to work with from Raw, which I think I listed in one of the previous videos were Shetland, Corriedale, Jacob, Romney, and CVM. That's my top 5. And my top 5 is what it is. But if I could like add a few more to work with from Raw, I recently fell in love with Parendale. And I fell in love with Parendale because I got a sample of some Parendale fleece through the Raw Wool for Sale Facebook group and realized that I needed Parendale in my life and ended up with too much Parendale. I now have a white and a gray. The radiator is extra clanky today. It's winter and we're trying to stay warm, so ignore the extra clanking of the radiator. I realized that I really, really enjoy Parendale, and Parendale is classified as a long wool pretty sure it's classified as a long wool in the Fleece and Fiber source book, and I'm pretty sure it's a Romney cross. But for me at least, with the Parendale that I've had, it behaves a lot like a medium wool, and what I've learned is I prefer the mediums. And I think I said that already. I prefer the mediums because I just think they're a little bit more generous, a little bit more forgiving, a little bit less finicky, and do not require as much of the hand holding as the fine wools do, especially when processing from raw. Like, it is very hard to make neps in a medium wool. Very, very hard. I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but it is very hard to make neps in a medium wool in a way that if you look at a fine wool sideways, you're gonna get neps. If you even breathe in a fine wool's direction and you irritate it the slightest bit, you're gonna get neps. And so fine wools just require a lot of slow making and a lot of slow crafting, which is not always my making style. I have to have a lot of bandwidth and a lot of room to really delve into the sort of fine making that a fine fleece requires. I'm processing Charles. Charles is the CVM that I got from Green County Wool that I split with my friend Megan. And I'm flicking every single lock of Charles's fleece, because if I don't flick all those locks open and I put it on my carder, I'm probably going to get neps. My carder has 120 TPI drum, and I am still concerned about getting neps in that fiber. So I am flicking every single lock open. And I love that with the medium wool, I can pick that bad boy open with my hands, throw it on my carder, and you'll just be fine. You'll be fine. And so I tend to gravitate towards those. I also just really enjoy spinning them. I enjoy the spinning experience. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a fine wool yarn. The yarn that I made, my sample from Charles's fleece, I like pulled it out the water and almost full on hit the ground. It was just so pretty. But I find that I enjoy the spinning experience of a medium wool more than I enjoy the spinning experience of a fine wool. And that's a personal preference. And it's not like it's anything that I can really put to name, really. Yeah, I think it's maybe that medium wools take less twist. I don't know. I don't know what it is, because I've spun carded fine wools and I really enjoyed it. See, this is the thing, and this is why I made that comment that like my favorite wool is the wool that's in my hand right now. Because now that I'm trying to parse out what I prefer and what I don't like, it's really hard for me, because I find that there's like value in every spinning experience, and I can find some things that bring me joy. I will say, here's something that I learned that I don't like. I don't like blends that have flax in it. I find, well, maybe just the flax blends that I've tried, but I've spun flax. I'm also spinning this fiber at 12:1, by the way, just interrupting myself, because if I'm correct, and I think I know what this is, 12:1 is the way to go. And we could do a little plyback test. That has just enough twist. Oh my God, I wish you could see that. It is lofty and juicy and no bounce, because I'm pretty sure I know what this is. No bounce, but it is lofty and it is juicy, and I'm having a great time with this. What was I saying? Just interrupted myself. Oh, flax. So the few times that I've spun flax, so I find that I don't enjoy spinning plant fibers. I like spinning wool. And I'll even spin, like, you know, the camelids and yak and angora, even though those don't have the same elasticity and memory that wool does. But I like the bounce and the forgiveness. I just find that wool fibers tend to be really generous, and plant fibers are the exact opposite. So anytime I've spun things with banana, I spun with pineapple, and I've spun with flax, I did not enjoy it. And I spun it blended with wool. Like, I cannot imagine what I would do if I had to spin it straight. I see people who are growing flax and processing flax and spinning it. Like, Vivian at What Viv Does is doing these really cool experiments with flax. And it just couldn't be me. It couldn't be me. Something about every single day, something about the sensation of flax gives me the heebie-jeebies. And that makes sense, because again, I have sensory processing issues. So like, I have learned, and that's part of, you know, doing the work and giving myself the freedom to be as neurospicy as I am, to not make myself feel bad when things don't work for me sensation-wise. For a really long time, I just thought that I had to power through things and tough through things. And it's just like, no, if that sensation doesn't feel good for me, I don't need to make room for it. And that's okay, right? Like, I don't have to always do the things. I shouldn't have to force myself to do something in a craft that's supposed to bring me joy. So I don't know that plant fibers will ever be for me, even blended with wool. The spinning experience is not enjoyable. I also don't, and like, not even just the spinning experience, I don't like having it in my fiber supply hand. I don't want to touch it. It feels weird, and not weird in that I can't explain it, but it's not my vibe. So plant fibers will just never be something that is on my docket. It will never be something that I get to explore. Conversely, I don't mind silk. And, you know, silk has a lot of the similar tactile qualities, not necessarily as flax. There's nothing like flax. But in terms of like pineapple fiber or like banana fiber, like I feel like silk and viscose and all those other, well, silk is not man-made, but the man-made fibers can be used interchangeably with plant fibers. And I don't mind the man-made fibers. One of my favorite blends to spin is the Tazhi Bamboo Silk Blend, and a bunch of dyers dye on it. I've gotten it some from Beth at Spin Delicious. I've gotten some from Hello Yarn. I think those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head right now, that I know that I've spun from. Yeah, those are the only two, but I really enjoy that blend. I enjoyed the Merino Bamboo blend. Like, I don't mind it. I don't mind plant fiber, I mean, the manufactured fibers blended with wool and silk, but something about pineapple and banana and definitely flax is a no-go for me. And the flax blends I've spun were merino flax and silk, so there were plenty of other fibers. The other thing about this, and maybe if I find one that's a little bit more well blended, we could reevaluate and, like, you know, check back in about this in a few weeks. It's just, I don't know if I want to put myself out there again because I had such a bad experience the first three times. I tried 3 different times. The fiber, the top that I had was not blended well, which is what I notice a lot when you get top that has multiple fibers in. Sometimes you get like a silk blend where the silk is like evenly blended in with the wool, and sometimes you get a silk blend where the silk is just sitting on top. And I think all my spinners know exactly what I mean. When you open a fiber blend and the silk is just sitting right on top, the flax blend was like that, and the flax was just sitting right on top. And then because it was sitting right on top, when you go to draft, it was really hard to draft the flax with like the wool and the silk. So I would end up with huge sections of just flax. And then in the finished yarn, because I don't know how to spin flax, but I know sometimes you have to like wet it and do other things. I don't know. But in the finished yarn, the flax would just stick out in some places. So I didn't even want to work with it. It's the same reason that I don't work with stellina. I don't buy fiber that has stellina in it. I just don't. One, because I don't enjoy working with plastics in my own making. And 2, a lot of people are like, you don't feel the stellina. They're liars. I feel it every single time. And maybe it's like psychosomatic and I don't actually feel it, but because I know it's there, I really don't enjoy the spinning experience, and I don't work with those yarns. So I don't work with any fiber blends that have stellina. It's one of my favorite things about Inglenook. Inglenook does sparkle and non-sparkle bats. So you can make sure you order your bats without Angelina or stellina or Firestar. And so does the Woodland Pixie. Like, they make sure to label their bats, whether their bats have sparkle fibers in them. And I will not buy a bat that has sparkle fibers in it. I did it once because I was rushing to grab something at an Inglenook update, and then I ended up picking out all of the stellina as I was spinning, which, you know, if you've ever worked with stellina, it's kind of hard to do. And I was committed because I knew that I would not use the finished yarn if I had something that had the sparkly bits in it. So I feel like if we were talking about things that I will not work with, but this is not even like least favorite, this is like a deal breaker. I will not work with nylon fibers. I will not work with stellina. I will not work with Angelina, and I will not work with Firestar. I just don't enjoy introducing plastics into my own making. There's enough plastic out in the world, and I am trying to preserve the integrity of my primitive craft. So, you know, no plastics for me. And yes, that does seem kind of hypocritical because I did say I would use the man-made fibers, but the man-made fibers are at least made from natural materials, and you can't argue that about plastic. So that's like my least favorite, my like deal breaker. I think I joke a lot about Rambouillet being my nemesis, but here's the thing. I don't really enjoy spinning top. I can, and I can do it quite well, but I just don't gravitate, at least in the season of my life right now, I don't gravitate towards top. And I think if I like maybe carded one of my Rambouillet braids or like ran it into Rolags or something, I have to like really experiment. But I just find that Rambouillet takes too much twist, and it takes too long to spin because it takes so much twist. And I just don't really enjoy it because I find top boring. That's really like the crux of it. Like, I just find spinning top boring. Now that I'm spinning continuous back, I'm getting I engage with the top a little bit more. So I have to, like, you know, reevaluate, because I have not spun any of my Rambouillet in a really long time. And I did get Rambouillet in a really fun color from Beth. Frosty Leafscape is dyed on Rambouillet. So I'm going to try spinning that braid continuous back and see if that changes any of my thought process. But I find spinning it boring. And then because the Rambouillet, so what I've been doing is spinning like a semi-woolen version from top because I find that really engaging. But because Rambouillet requires so much twist to hold together, it is very hard for me to figure out a good rhythm to spin like semi-long draw with Rambouillet without my singles drifting apart. And the only way I can figure out how to spin Rambouillet top is to spin it short forward, which again, I find incredibly boring. So I just need to do some more experimenting with how I want to spin my Rambo before I keep making statements like Rambouillet is my nemesis. Because I think what happened is people just thought I couldn't spin it. And it's like, I can, I have done it quite well. I just find it, you know, tedious and monotonous. Oh my God, I didn't charge my camera. Okay, we are on 2 bars. We gotta start moseying along because we are on 2 bars and I don't need my camera to start screaming at me. But I will spin Merino. I find that Merino, maybe Merino needs less twist. I don't know, maybe it needs less twist. And I love a good Targhee. As far as the fine wools go, since in the top that I've spun, I will rank them as Merino, no, Targhee first, that was absolutely wrong. Targhee first, Polworth second. I love a good Polworth. I mean, Polworth is in the fine wool category, but it really, I don't know, something about it before it's spun, it feels like a medium. And then once it comes off the bobbin, it goes back to being a fine wool. But like all the Polworth top, if you're a spinner and you've touched it, you know what I mean. Like Rambouillet and Merino have that like high squish straight out the gate. And so does Targhee. And Polworth just seems a little bit like flatter and less springier. And then you spin it and you like wash it and it bounces back into this like delightful, super like fluffy, super squishy yarn. So Targhee first, Polworth second. I am just getting my hands on Cormo top. The only person I've ever spun Cormo top from was Beth at Spin Delicious, but I'm now spinning Cormo from Hello Yarn, so I'm seeing Cormo offered by other dyers. And also, the Cormo feels a lot more rustic. And I find that I just really like wools that feel rustic when I spin it. So it would be Targhee, Polworth, then Cormo, and then Merino, and then Rambo. But I guess Rambo and I just need some time to like figure out where we stand and maybe potentially get to know each other. But if I had to spin one thing for top forever, well, see, it's a toss-up, because if I could only spin one, that would be hard to choose. Can I pick 2? If I could pick 2 things to spin from top forever, I would spin Corriedale and I would spin Polworth top forever. Those are my 2 favorites to spin top-wise, and a close third would be BFL. I learned to spin on BFL, so like a lot of that is just like a little bit of nostalgia, but also that BFL luster just can't be beat. I find BFL really easy to spin, and I get in a really good rhythm with it. It has like a longer staple, so I can just, you know, mess around with it. And again, a lot of this is just, I'm a fast spinner. You guys have been watching me spin for days. I am a fast spinner, and maybe I just need to learn to slow down. Maybe I should do some, you know, interrogating my own making and figure out how to like be more intentional. I don't think I'm not intentional. I think I'm just speedy. I don't know what that is. I think I'm just speedy. So that's just pretty much, that is my assessment of top, if we were assessing top. But my favorite fibers to spin are always going to be woolen preps. I'm going to be a long draw girl through and through. I'm going to be a woolen yarn through and through for the rest of my, well, no, let's not make blanket statements like that. For at least right now, and since I've started spinning and I learned how to spin long draw, I have been a woolen girl through and through. And I just prefer woolen yarns. I prefer the airiness of woolen yarns. I prefer the loftiness of woolen yarns. It is also like significantly harder for me to spin a dense yarn if I spin a woolen yarn. And I gotta tell you, I still spin dense yarns. I have not been spinning so long that like none of these things happen to me. And I don't want to call them mistakes or like rookie mistakes, because that seems like, it seems really reductive and it seems really unkind. And I don't like to use words like that. But I think we all still do it. Well, I'm not going to say that either, because I'm sure there's some of you spinning experts now who do not spin dense yarns anymore. So I can only speak for myself. I still do it on occasion. I am flying through this. I still do it on occasion, not as often as I did at the beginning of my career, but sometimes like I don't pay enough attention. There are also some fibers that it is really easy to spin a dense yarn. Sometimes like Falkland, which is why I tend to card my Falkland now into either Rolags or I don't know, something about the Falkland top, unless you get Falkland Merino, something about Falkland top just makes it really easy to spin a dense yarn, because it still takes a fair bit of twist. And then for me at least, it's real easy to just go over this is how much twist we need, and then head into this yarn is super heavy. And you can tell you have a denser yarn when your grist doesn't make sense. Like if you're spinning a 2-ply rambouillet and your grist is normally like you normally get like 400 yards, and you spin a 2-ply rambouillet and you're only getting like 200, your yarn might be really dense. There's not enough air in it, and your fiber is just not going as far as it should. And I find that it's really hard for me to spin a Falkland and not get a dense yarn unless I'm really, really intentional and really thoughtful and like counting treadles and paying attention. That's not TV spinning for me. That's like put on an audiobook and really, really think about what you're doing spinning, which, you know, sometimes it's time and place, but it's not always what I want to do. Sometimes I just want to do something potato chippy and put on a bunch of anime and watch Blue Eye Samurai for the 3rd time and spin some roving. And that's when I default to long draw, because I feel like I can spin long draw pretty much on anything these days. That's not true. Let's not put that out there into the universe. I can spin long draw well. I really enjoy woolen spins, and that it's my favorite thing to do on my e-spinner, because the mechanics of long draw can be less than gentle, especially if you're going backwards, because it's a lot of like repetitive shoulder motion. But if you spin on your e-spinner, I like to put my e-spinner to the side of me and I spin across my body, and it's a lot more gentle on my shoulder. So instead of going backwards like this, if I sit with my e-spinner, I go sideways like that. And it is a lot more gentle on my shoulders than it is sitting on a traditional wheel. So I almost exclusively spin long draw on my e-spinners because I can put them next to me and spin sideways. It is the same motion if you spin supported when you spin across your body. It's the exact same motion. So my favorite things to spin these days are going to be carded preps. And if I could be really, really particular, my favorite things to spin are going to be the minimally processed carded preps. So like the things that I make myself, or bats from like Melly Knits. How many times am I going to talk about Melissa? They're infinite. The limit does not exist, actually. The limit does not exist to how many times I will talk about Melissa on this channel. Melissa really taught me how to wash wool and has really, really augmented my personal spinning and making practice. And then also I can buy delicious fiber from her. So like, you know, the limit does not exist. But I love roving. And here's the thing. A lot of sellers, we're gonna get a little bit pedantic. There are spinning terminologies and conventions, and there are some definitions. Roving implies a carded prep. Sometimes you see roving and it's top, and top is a combed prep. So like if you're looking for an actual carded prep, just be careful if you buy everything that's called roving. That is all I'm gonna say. If you're looking for carded preps, be careful because a lot of people call thing roving and it's just a combed prep. Pin drafted roving, if you ever see something called pin drafted roving, that is exclusively going to be an actual carded prep. But just be careful if you're looking for carded preps online and you see roving. Just if it's like dyed and like super even and super uniform, it's probably top and not roving. It's just a lot of people use those terms interchangeably. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't, because I'm not going to tell people what to do, but it can be misleading. That's what I'm going to see. So Rolags, roving, and bats are typically carded preps, and then top is a combed prep. And what we find dyed by dyers, it is typically combed top, but a lot of people use those terms interchangeably. So if you're looking for a roving online, just, you know, if you see it from like a farm, it's probably roving. And you might be able to tell from the pictures. If it's like a single sheep situation, it might be roving. But also if you want and you're not sure, you could always just ask the person you're buying it from if this is a combed prep or a carded prep. That is just, you know, some information for you. But carded preps, I was like comb, that's not correct. Carded preps are my favorite preps to spin. And that is what I would prefer to spin for a sweater. Every time I've started a sweater with combed prep, I get really bogged down because I just don't enjoy spinning short forward. And for a really long time, continuous backward was not something that made sense to me. It was only in the last like 4 months that continuous backwards like cemented for me. And now I feel like I can do it reliably and do it well. But for a really long time, I could only spin short forward if I was spinning top. And the problem I had with continuous backward is I kept like defaulting into like this weird long draw hybrid. And so I was not spinning consistent yarns and I was getting frustrated with myself. I now feel like I have it, you know, under my belt enough that I could probably spin a whole 4-ounce braid this way. But that is just going to be, that's how I'm spinning my top for my traveler hoodie, is I am spinning it continuous backwards because it's Cormo and I really want to keep as much of that loft and that air and that fiber as possible so I can get a really bouncy round yarn when I'm finished. And I prefer to spin blends if I can. I love something with a little bit of silk in it. I love something with a little bit of like luxury. So if you can add some Angora or alpaca. I'm lucky to not have any sensitivities to wool or to camelids or to any of the fibers. So I can wear alpaca next to skin. I can wear mohair next to skin. I can wear yak next to skin. I can wear Angora next to skin. And I understand that I'm very lucky because that is not the case for everybody. I understand that I'm very lucky. But one of my favorite things to do is to blend wool with other fibers to maximize the characteristics of the other fibers. And that's really where the Fleece and Fiber source book, or just general knowledge, or if you're like me and you're really lucky to have people in your life who are wool mentors who are willing to like answer all your silly questions, that's where all that stuff comes into play. Being able to experiment and figure out what works and what doesn't work. When I bring a fleece home, because my favorite thing to spin is the stuff that I make myself. I feel like that is a no-brainer, but my favorite thing to spin is the stuff I make myself. I am still going to work through my top stash, and I've been just giving a lot of it away. Like I've just been giving it all away. So many of my friends are starting to spin right now, and I was like, cool, I have so much fiber that I'm probably never gonna get to, and it would be better off being rehomed to someone who's going to love it and someone who's going to make something from it and someone who's going to learn something with it. So I've just been like destashing and trying to not bring in so much and only be thoughtful about what I bring in. That Spin Delicious order was like the first time I had bought top. Besides my like monthly Hello Yarn Fiber Club, that Spin Delicious order was the first time I had bought top in, God, I can't remember. It's been that long. I can't remember. All the fiber that I've had come in has been carded form because that's just what I prefer. I prefer spinning that way, and I think that is just going to be where I am in this season of my life right now. But the thing that I prefer to work on the most is going to be the stuff that I make myself. And what I really enjoy making, I really enjoy blends. I enjoy this. So I am a scientist, I'm a nurse, so I am a scientist, and I was always happiest in the lab. And so I've just been really enjoying experimenting. And that's, again, this is why having something like the Fleece and Fiber source book comes in handy, because it really gives you the best qualities of the fiber that you're working with. So if you're working with something like a CVM, okay, you have high bounce, you have high elasticity, but maybe you don't have enough luster and you don't have enough drape. And then you start going, well, how do I add luster and how do I add drape to this? If that's what you want, right? You don't always want that. Maybe you want a high elasticity, high bounce, a really like high recovery yarn that's next to skin. So you would spin the CVM by itself. But maybe you're like me and you just enjoy play for the sake of playing. And so you start adding stuff. So you might add some alpaca to add a little bit of drape and also to make a warmer yarn. And then you might add some silk to add some luster, or you might add some Romney to add some luster, something like a long wool that's gonna have high luster. And you just mess around with different proportions until you get something you love. Most of my yarns that I've made that are blends are just wild experiments. I take notes on the characteristics of the fiber that I'm working with, and then I start mixing and matching. And I literally learned that from Melissa. Melissa taught me to just look at fiber as like building blocks, like separate it from the breed name and all that other stuff, and start thinking about what you know to be true about that breed. And that's why you have resources like the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook. Start thinking about what you know to be true about that breed, and then start thinking about the things that you think might work with that, and build from there. And so that is how I design all my fiber blends. And I don't always get it right. Like when I was building the yarn for my clay, I think I spun 2 samples before I found a sample that I loved. And then I instantly pivoted, and now I'm using mill prepared fiber because I just didn't want to do all that carding. But that's my favorite. My favorite things to spin are going to be the things that I make myself. And then second favorite is going to be pin drafted roving. And pin drafted roving is a carded prep, but it goes through an extra step of going through something called a pin drafter, and it makes the most even and consistent fiber prep I've ever seen, and I can spin it unsupported. I find unsupported spinning to be sorcery. So like unsupported spinning, if you ever watch someone spin, I can't believe I spun all that in 26 minutes. That was, again, very high micron, very low grist fiber, and that's how I got to spin all that in 20 minutes. I might pick back up that Dorset for a few minutes. I got a little bit more time before I have to sign off and start getting ready for work. So I'm gonna put the Dorset back on the wheel and get going. So pin drafted roving, it's a carded prep that's put through an extra step, and it really helps to align the fiber. So it's not going to be anywhere near as aligned as like comb top is, but it's not as disorganized as like roving that has not been pin drafted. It is my favorite form of carded preps to spin, besides the stuff that I spin myself, that I process myself, because the fibers are really like open and airy, and you can spin it unsupported, which the first time I spun something unsupported, I thought was sorcery, and I kept waiting for like the shoe to drop, because I was like, there's no way I can just do this. Like this doesn't, oh man. I gotta get to the bit of my single that is not going to break on me. Here we go. Perfection. Get my Dorset. Let's get back to spinning. Yes, so my favorite thing to spin, besides the stuff that I make myself, is pin drafted roving. I just really, really enjoy the prep of that. I saw a few of you were lucky enough to get some fiber from Roubaix. That is pin drafted roving. Never mind, we're not spinning the Dorset. My camera is telling me it's time to go. So I think I pretty much answered that question as thoroughly as I can. No plant fibers for me. Maybe Rambouillet for me, and always hand prepped, hand processed, minimally touched stuff. That's where we go. That's my default. That's what has my heart. I literally picked up the Dorset, looked at my camera, and it started flashing red, and it was like, girl, you gotta go. Which honestly, it's 6:58. The universe is aligning. The universe is aligning and telling me to put this down. Do not sit here and spin this Dorset, and go to work. So I'm going to listen to the universe, because, you know, I should be on time and not strolling in like barely in the nick of time. And actually, if I leave now, I'll have enough time to walk, and I won't have to like scramble or wait for the bus. So thanks so much for hanging out with me. I'm going to finish this Dorset tonight. By the next time you see me, I will hopefully have the last 4 days wound off to weaving bobbins, and we just have 3 days left for this sit and spin. Thanks for spending your December with me. I hope this season of Starlight is filling you right up and bringing you the most joy. I love you. I'll see you around. Go make something fun today.